Okay, folks, so you guys know that right before the NBA playoffs every single year, I come on here and I do my top 10 players in the NBA that are participating in these playoffs. So obviously, I leave off guys like Kevin Durant, Victor Wembanyama, who obviously did not make the postseason this year. But then I come back and I look at my list and I do say this playoffs do matter a lot. Your image changes based on what you do in the postseason. I hope to see you do it more than 1 year, or at least have one of the greatest postseasons ever before I notch you a top player and make sure that last postseason run wasn't a fluke. But I have, out of the 10 best players in the NBA right now, nine of them were listed in the postseason this year. One, obviously, that was not. I think we all know who that is. But my ranking and my order of these players have changed. So, what we're going to do is we're going to count down from 10 to 1 because I believe the nine players on this list are no doubters. I think the 10th is where you can have an argument. So, here we go. Without further ado, here are my top 10 NBA players after the NBA postseason has concluded. Number 10. This guy was number 6 on my list entering the postseason, dropped down a little bit, not really his fault, but he did not have the greatest postseason. And guys above him, or guys below him in the list before the postseason definitely have risen. And so that is Jaylen Brown. I still think he's the best player in the Celtics. Some people think it's Jason Tatum. I think it's Jaylen Brown. He did win the Eastern Conference Final MVP. He did win NBA Finals MVP. I think that when the going gets tough, when you need him to go get a bucket, he can do so. I think he's one of the most clutch players in the NBA. And again, I think he's just a tad bit better than Jason Tatum. Now, I think you could make a case for Tatum, obviously, here. I think you could make a case for Donovan Mitchell because of what he did with the Cleveland Cavaliers the last two postseasons. My issue with Donovan Mitchell is he has yet to make a conference final. And when the going gets tough, when there is a big game, when you need to have Donovan Mitchell to have a superstar performance to put your team over the top, he more often than not disappears. I think you can make an argument here for Tyrese Halliburton. My issue with Tyrese Halliburton is I cannot unsee what I saw in game five of these finals with only the 4 points, did not make a field goal. I cannot have you as a top 10 player in the NBA if you put out that performance in the finals. And also, by the time we got to game seven, the conversation was basically down to Pascal Siakam and TJ McConnell as the finals MVP. The Pacers win, not Tyrese Halliburton, who had a horrible game one outside of the game winner, had a terrible game two, a horrendous game five. So there's no way I could put him in as a top 10 player. Jaylen Brown, in my opinion, has the better resume at this point. So I slotted in Jaylen Brown here. Number 9. I have Victor Wembanyama of the San Antonio Spurs, who of course was ineligible for my playoff list because he did not make the postseason. But I'm here to guarantee next year he will be on the postseason list because the San Antonio Spurs will be in the postseason. Victor Wembanyama is coming of age. He could be potentially one of the next phases of the NBA, along with Nikola Jokic, Anthony Edwards, Cooper Flag, Luka Doncic. He's going to be in that class. I don't know about Dynasty because I think that this NBA is very comparative to the 70s NBA, but you guys know my affiliation for Victor Wembanyama. I love this kid since he was 16 years old. And so that's why I'm taking Wemby here at number 9. At number 8, this guy was number 9 on my top 10 list before the postseason, so he moves up one spot. That being Jalen Brunson. I think Jalen Brunson, again, the second straight year where he has sort of led the Knicks and obviously was the best player in that Knicks Celtics series. You can make a case he was the best player in that Knicks Pacers series, even though the Knicks fell down in that series. His incredibleness to go isolation against the Celtics and be the reason in those fourth quarters. Oh, it's Iris Halliburton in Indiana, right? be the reason why the Knicks were able to come back in game one and game two. His ability to score in isolation is one of the best that I've seen in at least today's NBA. His conditioning is incredible, right? Under Tom Thibodeau, he almost never left the game. He's tenacious on defense. I do think Jalen Brunson, if you put a lot of shooting around him and protect him with good big rebounding, he has a very similar game to that of Shai-Gilgeous Alexander in OKC. Maybe just not as skilled as a passer at the top, but Jalen Brunson is a guy that I could certainly see leading the Knicks to a championship one day. Now, he drops a little bit in these rankings because some of these young guys really came about in this postseason. Steph, I had him at number 4 in my before playoff ranking. He drops to 7 here. But again, it's Steph Curry. He's going to be in this list. I think acquiring Jimmy Butler really helped extend his career in Golden State. It almost looked like it was going to be a Kobe Bryant-esque, though not as terrible, but just a irrelevant run towards the end here after they won those 4 championships in Golden State. But as long as you have Steph Curry and now they add a second star in Jimmy Butler and Steve Kerr is still there, the Warriors are still going to be the Warriors. Steph Curry can still be the best shooter, on any given night in the NBA. He is maybe the most prolific three-point shooter in the history of the sport. We know what he can do still. It's just not as consistently as it once was. Now, number 6, this is the biggest drop off on the list. LeBron going from number 2 before the postseason to number 6. I'll be honest with you, I think LeBron's age started to show a little bit in that first round series against Minnesota, where clearly he cannot carry a team anymore. And I keep saying this, it's the reason why the Lakers, they went out and they got Luka Doncic because with Anthony Davis, right, the hope was always that LeBron would take a back seat and Anthony Davis would become the number one guy. And it just never went to fruition, and AD never had the game offensively. And as good as AD was defensively, LeBron had to carry the load offensively. Luka is almost the opposite. Where Luka is so good offensively, he's basically like LeBron, but the foreign version of him in his prime with just triple double galore. But he's out of shape and doesn't play a look at defense. So LeBron has to spend the majority of time now on the defensive end of the floor, giving more effort because Luka does not give any effort on defense. So LeBron made some superhuman plays in that game 4 in Minnesota, right? With the Lakers, down 2-1, a chance to even the series. They were up by 10 going into the fourth quarter, blew that lead, and that was all she wrote for the season. LeBron is still one of the top 5 offensive players in the game. Defensively, he's definitely slowed down. He cannot do it for 48 minutes anymore. At 40 years old, though, what he's doing is unprecedented going in a year. I believe it's what 23 next year at age 42. What LeBron is doing at this point will not be duplicated. He just cannot do it at a consistent level anymore. So I put Luka one rung above him. He actually drops my pre-playoff ranking. He goes down from number 3 to number 5. I was very disappointed in Luka this postseason, these 5 games against the T-Wolves from the jump. I still think he's a special player. I still think, he's got God-given ability to be maybe the best player in basketball one day. And on any given night, he could be. It's just he weirdly, we know the defensive struggles, but he weirdly disappears. He can be disengaged at times if his shot's not falling. And I do not like the constant bitching at the officiating. I think it distracts him. I think it's annoying. I think the Lakers were already fed up with it. And there are already rumblings that maybe there is a reason why Dallas traded Luka. And yes, they got the number 1 pick, Cooper Flag, so the trade looks better, obviously, by default because of that. But with new ownership coming in, if Luka's not going to be the clear number 1 guy, if he's not going to stay in shape, if he's not going to commit somewhat to the defensive end, if he's not going to get better, he's got the ultimate nutrition guy. He's got the ultimate leader there in LeBron that's trying to help him, move along and use their God-given abilities on a basketball court to their advantage. and Luka just doesn't seem like he's that interested in it. We'll see. But right now, in my opinion, there are four better players in the NBA than Luka. And at number four is Anthony Edwards, who was number 8 on my list before the postseason. And the reason why I had Ant at 8 and not in the top five is because I wanted to see him do it again. Listen, the thing he did in the Western Conference playoffs last year, where he went and took down Kevin Durant in Phoenix, then he went and took down Nikola Jokic in Denver. This year, he obviously goes in, he takes down LeBron and Luka. Then, he goes in, he takes down whether or not you want to say Steph Curry, but Jimmy Butler and the Golden State Warriors. He has literally gone through at this point every great player that he needs to go through in the West, besides SGA, who obviously they lost to in 5 in OKC in the Western Conference Finals. But Anthony Edwards now, back to back years where he is in the Western Conference Finals at the young age of 23 years old. We haven't seen anybody with this ability other than LeBron to carry a team to this point at this young of age. My problem with Ant and why I don't have Ant in the top three personally is because he does talk a lot of trash, right? We've seen him talk trash to Kevin Durant, Luka, LeBron, Jokic, all the guys I mentioned who he's beat. But last year against Luka when he was in Dallas, and then this year against Oklahoma City and SGA, he did not talk a lot of trash in that series, and he did not play his best in that series after game one because they were down in the series. And it seems like to me that once Ant believes that he does not have the better team, then once Ant believes that they do not have a shot to win the series, he does not rise above it. He does not try his best. He doesn't have his best games. It's like he's already defeated, and he accepts it. And so that's where I want to see Ant accept the challenge. I know he says he doesn't want to be the face of the league. I know everybody says they see some Michael Jordan in him. I would like to see more of that killer instinct in Anthony Edwards when his team is down, when they absolutely need him to have the best game of his life and not rely on Rudy Gobert, Dante DiVincenzo, Naz Reid, and those role players. Because even in game 7 against Denver last year, Ant did not have his best game. Now, number 3, I had him at number 10 going into the playoffs, and he has risen so much, even though they lost in the first round, and that is Giannis. And I'm going to explain why. I have been knocking Giannis for the last 3 or 4 years because I kept saying, well, the Milwaukee Bucks have not been the same, and he has not really been the same playoff player since they won that 2021 championship. And while I stick to my guns on that, I will say this. This Milwaukee lost to Indiana in the first round was not on Giannis. Giannis looks healthy this year for the first time in years. And Damian Lillard or not, the roster was flawed. They didn't have anybody to back Giannis up. He was essentially playing 1-on-5, and he just could not do it against, we may argue, the best bench depth in the NBA this year, potentially even more than OKC in Indiana. And again, Giannis did everything he could, averaging over 30, trying to just do whatever he could to will Milwaukee to win games. It just wasn't enough because even what we've seen out of LeBron right now in LA, right, is that one guy, and we've seen it with SGA, right? There's no further than these NBA finals. The days of one superstar on a basketball court carrying another team is over. This is the new NBA where the players are coming in, whether they are international or they are American from the NBA draft. We have more talent in the NBA now than we ever have been, where most teams have 2 or 3 stars. There's legitimate role players. Teams can go 7, 8, 9, 10 deep and very similar skills of 3-and-D guys. The ability to knock down mid-range jumpers, the ability to get stops. And so when you have all this, and then you're just one player because you don't have any other productive players on your team, it's very hard to win. And there's nothing that helps Giannis's value more, in my opinion, than every team in the NBA is calling Milwaukee, asking him for his services. I think the Greek Freak needs to get out of Milwaukee to sort of revive his career the way Luka sort of got out of Dallas, and we sort of remade Luka's image as like, oh my God, he is, a top five player in the NBA. Giannis going west to get him on that big stage again would make it a lot of fun. I just don't see it happening. But I think the fact that everybody in the league is going to call Milwaukee and ask for him certainly does raise his value. Now, I've already alluded to this yesterday when I talked about the NBA Finals, but number two is without a doubt SGA, who has now surpassed Giannis. He has now surpassed Luka. He has now surpassed Ant easily. There is no debate, in my opinion. He is the number two player in the NBA, right behind the Joker, who we all know is number one. SGA, obviously the best guard season since Michael Jordan in 95 96. Led the league in scoring, finals MVP, regular season MVP, NBA finals winner. Last time I will probably say that. And this dude was traded in the Paul George trade. When the Clippers went out and they got Paul George, they gave up SGA, completely changed the Oklahoma City Thunder's franchise around. He has gotten better every single year. He become a free throw merchant all you want. He's also a mid-range assassin, and he is the main reason why the Oklahoma City Thunder are now the current NBA champions. And obviously, the man that almost beat the NBA champions by himself, he could average a quadruple double if he wants to. It just had an amazing postseason. And even game seven against OKC, I'm not going to fault him because nobody came along for the ride with him. Again, a lot like Giannis. I just think he's the most ensemble presence. I don't think you can guard him. I don't think there's a strategy. The strategy is basically let Jokic get 50 because nobody can stop him and make sure the other guys don't score. Make sure Jokic gets 55 and 2 assists as opposed to 39 rebounds and 11 assists. Because when he has those assists and his passing ability as a big, I mean, he's right up there with LeBron and Luke as the best passers in basketball as a big. I can't say nothing much about the Joker. We know he was drafted during a Taco Bell commercial. We know he's not the biggest NBA fan. We know he loves horse racing more than the NBA, and that should concern Nuggets fans that if a playoff game is on the same day as the Kentucky Derby, as game seven was this year, Jokic is not going to have the best game in the world. Lucky for them, though, the teammates came. Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, even Russell Westbrook came along with that game. But there's nothing bad to say about Jokic. Besides the fact that he can't jump. And I used to hold that against him. I used to say when Joel Embiid was in his prime, how could you put Jokic above Joel Embiid when one guy can't jump? Well, one guy stays healthy, and one guy has gotten better every single year, and now he's an NBA champion. He's a three-time NBA MVP. Again, when you don't have a game plan to guard somebody, when somebody is simply unstoppable, like LeBron and Michael were in their prime, that is the company Nikola Jokic is in. And I think you can make a real argument right now based off his statistics. He is the best center in the history of the NBA as we currently speak. So to recap, my current top 10 NBA players in the league based off what happened in the postseason. Number 10, Jaylen Brown. Number 9, Victor Wembanyama. Number 8, Jalen Brunson. Number 7, Steph Curry. Number 6, that LeBron James guy. Number 5, Luka. Number 4, Ant-Man. Number 3, the Greek Freak. Number 2, the newly won NBA Final MVP, Shai-Gilgeous-Alexander. And number 1, the Joker, Nikola Jokic. Thank you so much for listening to my thoughts on Kevin Durant, as well as my top 10 players currently in the NBA. Like that clip from the Brand's World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brand's World podcast right here on YouTube.